You don't have to flip your whole life upside down to win. You don't need a miracle, you need momentum. Success is not built on one giant leap. It's built on 1,000 small steps that compound into greatness. Everybody wants that big breakthrough. Everybody wants that overnight success story, that one moment that changes everything, that one opportunity that flips their life around. But here's the truth: breakthroughs don't happen in one giant step. They happen through small, intentional, consistent changes that nobody else notices. The big impact you're searching for, built on the little adjustments you make every single day. Think about it like this. If you're flying a plane and you change your direction by just 1 degree, you won't notice the difference in the first few miles. But give it time, give it hours, give it distance, and that tiny 1 degree shift puts you in a completely different destination. That's life. That's success. That's growth. It's not about flipping your whole world upside down in a day. It's about making that small adjustment, that 1 degree shift, that repeated step that looks invisible to others, but takes you miles away from who you used to be. Too many people wait for the perfect time to make a big move. They wait for the money, the opportunity, the recognition, the stage, the platform. And while they're waiting, someone else is working. Someone else is stacking small changes, stacking small wins. And when you finally see them, they look like an overnight success. But what you didn't see was the 1% better they became each day. You didn't see the small habits, the small adjustments, or the little sacrifices that compounded into greatness. You don't lose because you're not talented. You don't lose because you're not gifted. You lose because you underestimate the power of the small. You think it's not worth it to wake up 30 minutes earlier. You think it's not worth it to read 10 pages a day. You think it's not worth it to save a little money, to practice for just an hour, to push for 1 more rep. But those are the very things that separate the average from the extraordinary. That's the difference between staying stuck and breaking through. The problem is small changes don't give you instant gratification. You don't see the result right away. You don't feel the transformation overnight. And because of that, most people quit. They think, what's the point of eating clean today? I don't see results. What's the point of studying for an hour? I'm still not an expert. What's the point of working out when I don't see abs in the mirror? The point is, it's not about today's reward. It's about tomorrow's reality. It's about where those small deposits take you if you stay consistent long enough. Think about the strongest, most successful people you admire. They didn't get there because of one big move. They didn't suddenly wake up and find themselves on top. They climbed brick by brick, step by step, change by change. They knew if they made small changes every day, those changes would multiply, and the multiplication would create an impact that no shortcut could ever match. When you start respecting the small things, you start building big results. When you start stacking those little wins, you build confidence. When you build confidence, you build momentum. And when you build momentum, you become unstoppable. But it all starts with the small changes. It starts with doing the thing you don't feel like doing, the thing nobody else sees, the thing that looks insignificant in the moment. The power of marginal gains is real. One small change in your discipline, one small change in your routine, one small change in your attitude, and suddenly the impact on your life is enormous. You don't need a complete overhaul. You just need to keep showing up and making those tiny adjustments, because small changes create a ripple effect that eventually turns into a wave strong enough to change everything in your life. Everybody wants to come out swinging. Everybody wants to go all in for a week, for a month, for a short burst of time, and then they burn out. They want to brag about how hard they went for those few days, how many hours they grinded, how much pain they endured in one big sprint. But the truth is, greatness is not built in one sprint. Greatness is built in the marathon. And the only way you survive a marathon is consistency. Intensity looks good on the surface. Intensity gets you hype. Intensity makes people clap for you in the moment. But consistency is what builds a legacy. Consistency is boring. It's not glamorous. It doesn't get applause. But it's the quiet, steady force that separates those who talk about success from those who actually live it. You don't win because you went hard once. You win because you kept showing up when the hype was gone, when nobody was watching, when it didn't feel exciting anymore. Think about it. Anybody can go to the gym for a week and push themselves until they can't walk, but that doesn't change their body. The person who goes every single day, puts in steady work, eats clean, rests well, and stays locked in for months, that's the one who transforms. The same goes for business, for school, for relationships, for life. Intensity fades, consistency compounds. The problem with most people is they confuse motivation with discipline. Motivation is temporary, it's emotional. It comes and goes depending on how you feel. Discipline is consistency in action. It's doing the thing whether you feel like it or not. That's why people love intensity. It's fueled by emotion. You feel good, you go hard. But what happens when you don't feel good? What happens when life hits you, when you're tired, when you're uninspired? Consistency is what carries you when emotions abandon you. You don't need to crush it one time. You need to keep building it every day. You don't need to prove you can work hard once. You need to prove you can work hard when it's raining, when it's snowing, when you're broke, when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when the world tells you it's not working. Consistency is not about being perfect. It's about refusing to quit. It's about stacking up enough repetitions, enough small wins, enough effort that eventually the dam breaks and all that work pays off. The truth is, the world doesn't remember sprinters who stopped halfway. The world remembers those who stayed in the race, those who kept moving forward day after day. Look at anybody who reached the top in their field. You'll see consistency. They didn't just have flashes of brilliance. They didn't just have moments of intensity. They had years of steady, unshakable commitment to their craft. They built their name on showing up again and again, long after others gave up. Consistency is power because it creates habits, and habits run deeper than feelings. Habits don't care if you're tired. Habits don't care if you're discouraged. Once you build them, they carry you. That's why the disciplined person beats the talented person over time. Talent is intense. It shines bright in the moment. Discipline is consistent. It burns steady and never runs out. You might not see results in the first week. You might not feel progress in the first month. But if you refuse to stop, if you stay locked in, if you choose steady progress over temporary intensity, one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come. And that's when you'll understand that consistency beats intensity every single time. One of the greatest secrets to success is this: effort compounds. Just like money in a bank account grows with interest, the work you put in, the discipline you practice, the sacrifices you make, they don't just add up, they multiply. The compounding effect of effort means that every little thing you do today, no matter how small it seems, has the power to create exponential growth in your future. Here's the problem. People want results faster than they want to work for them. They want the reward without the repetition. They want the outcome without the input. They do something for a week, and when they don't see massive results, they quit. They don't realize that the very effort they abandoned was on the verge of compounding into something great. Progress doesn't reveal itself instantly. It stacks quietly, it builds silently, and then one day it explodes in a way that shocks everybody who wasn't paying attention. Think about this. If you get 1% better every single day, it doesn't sound like much. 1%, that's nothing, right? But over the course of a year, those tiny daily improvements multiply into something transformational. On day 1, you see nothing. On day 30, you see little change. But on day 365, you look back and realize you're unrecognizable compared to who you were. That's the compounding effect of effort. It turns small, ordinary steps into extraordinary outcomes. The same way a seed becomes a tree, effort compounds. When you first plant it, there's nothing to see. You water it, you protect it, you give it sunlight, and for weeks, for months, you may still see nothing breaking through the soil. But underground growth is happening. Roots are being built. Foundation is being set. And when the time is right, the tree breaks through, and suddenly everybody sees what you were working on all along. That's what consistent effort does. It works beneath the surface until the breakthrough comes. The danger is that most people never get far enough to experience compounding. They quit before the growth can multiply. They give up in the silent stage, the stage where results aren't obvious. They say, this isn't working, not realizing that the compounding effect doesn't pay out at the beginning. It pays out when you've stayed in long enough, consistent enough, committed enough to let your effort grow interest. Every rep in the gym, every page you read, every dollar you save, every call you make, every skill you practice, it's not wasted. Even when you don't see the result, it's being stored. It's being banked. It's compounding, waiting for the day it multiplies into something bigger than you ever imagined. That's why you can't afford to take shortcuts. That's why you can't afford to stop and start. Because every time you quit, you reset the compound. You start from zero again. But when you stay locked in, your effort builds on itself, and suddenly, what used to take everything you had now feels effortless because your past work has stacked up and carried you forward. This is why you can't compare your journey to anybody else. You don't know how long they've been compounding. You don't know how much effort they've already banked. You see their results, but you didn't see their years of silent deposits. Don't be fooled into thinking your small effort is meaningless just because you don't see instant rewards. Every small effort is currency in the account of your future, and when it compounds, the payout is massive. The compounding effect of effort is why ordinary people achieve extraordinary results. It's why someone with less talent, less resources, less connections can still outwork and outperform those who started ahead of them. Because when you understand that effort multiplies, you stop chasing shortcuts and you start chasing consistency. You stop looking for the quick win and you start looking for the steady grind. And when you live that way long enough, the compound will take care of the rest. Success doesn't hide in the spotlight. It hides in the shadows. It hides in the little things that most people ignore. The things that don't look important, the things that don't get applause. That's where greatness lies. Mastering the details is what separates the average from the elite, because anybody can show up for the big moment, but very few are willing to pay attention to the small things that build up to that moment. The truth is, everybody wants the trophy, but not everybody wants to tie their laces the right way. Everybody wants the stage, but not everybody wants to rehearse in an empty room. Everybody wants the spotlight, but not everybody wants to grind in silence when nobody's watching. The details are the difference. They're the invisible work that nobody sees, but everyone feels when the results show up. Think about athletes. The best in the world don't just practice their sport, they practice every single detail surrounding it. They don't just train their body, they train their sleep, their diet, their recovery, their minds. They watch film, they study tendencies, they practice footwork, breathing, timing. It's not just talent that makes them great, it's the obsession with details. The player who ignores the little things will never beat the one who studies every inch of the game. Life is the same way. You can't say you want success and ignore the details of your daily routine. You can't claim you want financial freedom, but ignore how you spend every dollar. You can't say you want to be the best, but neglect your preparation. The details reveal your discipline, and your discipline reveals your destiny. The reason most people fall short is because they think details are optional. They think the small stuff doesn't matter. But small cracks break big foundations. Small errors create massive failures. When you ignore the details, you sabotage your own progress. But when you master them, you build something so solid that nothing can knock it down. Think about a building. From the outside, it looks beautiful, but the strength of that building has nothing to do with the glass windows or the fancy design. It's the measurements, the alignment, the structure, the bolts, the foundation, the details that nobody sees. If those are off, the building collapses. That's life. The strength of your dreams depends on the details you master when nobody's paying attention. Mastering the details also builds confidence. When you've rehearsed every scenario, when you've tightened every screw, when you've prepared in every way, you step into the big moment with certainty. You're not hoping it will work. You know it will work because you've controlled everything you could control. The details give you peace. because you've left nothing to chance. The difference between good and great is often something so small that people laugh at it. It's the extra repetition. It's the extra 10 minutes. It's the precision in execution. It's the commitment to doing it right, not just doing it fast. The greats aren't casual with their craft. They're meticulous. They don't cut corners. They don't take shortcuts. They don't hope for luck. They master the details so thoroughly that success becomes inevitable. Most people think it's the big moments that define you, but the truth is the big moments only reveal the details you mastered in private. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation. And your preparation is nothing more than how much you respect the details. If you want to change your life, start with the details. Start with the little habits, the small choices, the unseen discipline, because when you master those, the big moments will take care of themselves. The spotlight doesn't make you great. It just exposes whether or not you respected the details in the dark. Your life is not controlled by what you do occasionally. Your life is controlled by what you do consistently. Habits are the real power behind every success story. They're the invisible engine driving everything you achieve, and they're also the chains holding back everybody who never reaches their potential. Habits are power because once they're built, they no longer rely on your feelings. They no longer rely on your motivation. They become automatic, and that automatic rhythm can either push you toward greatness or drag you toward failure. The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. You can write down the biggest dreams in the world. You can visualize the perfect life. You can scream affirmations every morning. But if your daily habits don't line up with those goals, you will never touch them. Goals give you direction, but habits determine your destination. Look at the people who are thriving in their field. It's not that they're more talented than everybody else. It's not that they're smarter or luckier. It's that they've turned the right actions into habits, and those habits generate momentum that never stops. Waking up early, training with discipline, studying with focus, practicing every day. What feels impossible for most people is automatic for them because they've programmed themselves to live that way. Habits become second nature, and that second nature becomes their superpower. Habits also protect you when life gets hard. Motivation is fragile. Some days you'll wake up tired, uninspired, maybe even hopeless. But if you've built the right habits, you don't have to negotiate with yourself. You don't ask, do I feel like doing this today? You just do it because it's who you are now. Your habits carry you through when your emotions try to betray you. That's why habits are power. They remove the weakness of choice and replace it with the strength of discipline. But habits can also destroy you if you build the wrong ones. Waking up late, procrastinating, making excuses, eating junk, scrolling mindlessly. Those habits steal your potential one day at a time. And the scary thing is, you don't even realize it until years have passed and you're stuck in a life you never wanted. That's the power of habits. They don't care whether they're good or bad. They just multiply whatever you practice. That's why you've got to be intentional about the habits you build. You've got to design your day with the future in mind. Every time you repeat an action, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. And the more votes you cast, the stronger that identity becomes. If you want to be great, your habits must align with greatness. If you want to lead, your habits must align with leadership. If you want to succeed, your habits must align with success. The beauty of habits is that once they're locked in, the effort decreases, but the results increase. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't fight yourself every morning to do it. It's automatic. Imagine if working out, studying, grinding on your craft, networking, building discipline became that automatic. Imagine if the things that feel heavy for most people became light for you because you made them habits. That's the true definition of power. When what drains others fuels you, simply because you've built it into your lifestyle. Habits turn the extraordinary into the ordinary. They take things that once seemed impossible and make them routine. That's how champions are built. That's how businesses are built. That's how legacies are built. not on random bursts of greatness, but on the daily habits that slowly, steadily, and surely stack into unstoppable power. Everybody wants to believe success comes from one massive moment, one huge leap, one lucky break that changes everything. But the truth is, victory is rarely about the big things. Victory is found in the margins, in those small hidden places where most people never look, where most people never work, and where most people never care. The margin is that extra 5 minutes, that extra rep, that extra conversation, that extra ounce of discipline. It's not obvious, it's not glamorous, but it's where battles are won and destinies are decided. Think about sports. Games aren't usually won by 50 points. They're won by one possession, one shot, 1 second, one decision. That's the margin. And the difference between champions and everybody else is that champions live in that margin. They train for it, they prepare for it, they stay ready for it. While others get comfortable, champions focus on the details that nobody else values. They know that when the moment comes, when it's close, when it's tight, when everything is on the line, it's the small things that separate winning from losing. The same is true in life. You don't lose because you're completely unprepared. You lose because you ignored the margin. You showed up, but you didn't prepare as deeply as you could have. You worked hard, but you didn't work consistently. You studied, but you didn't master the details. You did enough to look good, but not enough to dominate. That's the margin, and the margin is everything. Most people overlook the margin because it feels insignificant. They say, what's the point of doing one more? What's the point of practicing an extra hour? What's the point of pushing when I've already done enough? But here's the truth. The point is that the margin is where winners separate themselves. Average people do what's required. Extraordinary people go beyond. The margin is the space where average stops and greatness begins. Victory in the margins is also about mindset. It's about how you think when nobody is watching. Do you cut corners because you think nobody will notice? Or do you push yourself because you know the small choices create big consequences? The margin is your discipline in the unseen. It's waking up when the alarm rings, not hitting snooze. It's sticking to your plan when temptation calls. It's staying locked in when everyone else gets distracted. The margin doesn't test your talent. It tests your integrity. And here's the thing, when you own the margins, life feels unfair to everyone else. Or they'll look at you and say, why are they winning? Why do they keep getting opportunities? Why do things always seem to work out for them? But they don't realize you're winning the battles they never even fought. They never saw the extra reps. They never saw the late nights. They never saw the extra preparation. They never saw you living in the margins, stacking small advantages until those small advantages became an unstoppable lead. The margins are also where resilience is built. When life gets tough, when pressure rises, when challenges hit, you can't rely on talent alone. You can't rely on motivation. You rely on the foundation you built in the margins. The preparation, the discipline, the focus. That's why champions can perform under pressure, because they've already lived there in practice. They've already fought in the margins when it didn't matter, so they can dominate when it does. Victory doesn't belong to the one who did the most once. Victory belongs to the one who did a little bit more every single time. The one who stayed longer, pushed harder, studied deeper, sacrificed consistently. That's why victory is in the margins. It's never about who had the biggest moment. It's about who made the smallest commitments over and over again until the gap became too big to close.